What's up, you guys? It's Jordan Exalt, and we are here with Prophet Culture yet again for another video where we're talking about spirituality, mastery, discovery, all through a lens of philosophy, symbolism, and human behavior. And today we are having a conversation about the evolution of discipline as a virtue in Western thought. Let's get into today's video because we have a lot to cover, but let's get started. So I want to have a conversation about, what prompted this, because I think that, yes, I know that we have talked about community for so many times, so much. We talk about community building so much, but towards the end of it, we are going to tie it back to community building. But this video isn't specifically about community building. This time, we are talking about the effect of discipline on spirituality, on your spiritual journey, on your lifestyle, and what how that comes into play with everyday life, from societal rules and all that. We've talked about some of this stuff before, so we're gonna really wrap up some of those loose ends, or at least start to, and really dial in. So make sure you guys are locked in. What's good? Let's start today's video. So I wanted to start this video off talking about individuality, and kind of like some core concepts that I have in mind, because I think, seriously, I genuinely think that a lot of people in the time that we live in don't want to think for themselves. They don't know how to think for themselves. So having an opinion scares them. Having an idea scares them, and they don't want to. So we live in a world right now that is really enabling not having to think for yourself, not being polar, not having the bright idea. And I think that is so annoying. It's so hard in a time where critical thought is so necessary in the way that we are navigating not just life but society, how we're navigating being represented by the government, right? We don't want to be told how to think, how to process, how to do, how to walk, right? We want to be represented. We want to be valued. We want to be, reflected through the identity of who is in charge, not just sit around and not have to think about ourselves. And it's gotten to a really, really toxic point. So I think that initially stems from this very oblique behavior of not knowing your own identity, which comes into the context of individuality. We're really living in a world where it is hard to deal with people because they don't have to have their own ideas. They don't have to think, they don't have to, stand behind those ideas. They can just grift, right? There are so many grifters in BreadTube right now. There are so many BreadTubers that are, doing it for the vine. That is so millennial coded. They are genuinely just doing it for the reaction, for just a rage bait, and I think that is critical in a time where we are in a place where people are scared to think on their own. People are scared to have ideas. People are scared to challenge the system. When those things, when applied correctly, yes, but those things are critical to dismantling the system that doesn't work for any of us, right? So at the end of the day, I just have to put it out there that I don't think, it's fair that all these, thoughtless, reckless, consumer based industry zombies get to rule over everybody else, and they know that they are leveraging privilege in their privilege, and by bandwagoning, not even like a common belief, but just like a belief system, a thought process, being told what to think and how to feel, and tradition and all that, because they feel like it will benefit them in the long run, or they feel like it is more comfortable to be, told how to think, how to walk, how to process, how to blink, right? How to breathe, right? How to fill your air with lungs. It's dumb. It's so freaking dumb. And it does not make sense. So we need to start combating with celebrating each other. We need to start really critically thinking on individuality. So let's talk about it. So in the context of like individuality, I think what I'm meaning, and I want for you guys to also share your perspective on this, in case you have a different idea or philosophy behind it. I want to encourage you guys to leave a comment about what you thought it was. But for me, I think individuality is about really pushing growth systems, really pushing mental wellness from a perspective of experience, right? Does that make sense? Because when it comes down to it, it can be very, very fickle for us to build something to support a system of mental wellness, or to take control of the cause and effect of what's really going on with the machine, or even if it's something as simple as really building and scaling something for life experience, or lifestyle, community building, like we do at Perfect Culture, or like those things that we talk about on the channel. I think that it takes a real lived experience through going through it to really build and make something that is relevant, that is something that is important, not just a perspective, not just a wild guess, because that is very capricious, right? Like it could change after our generation has passed on, right? So we don't want to pass the torch to the next generation, and they don't even know what's really going on, because one, they didn't communicate with us, we didn't communicate with them, but we weren't communicating for anybody outside of ourselves. So with individuality, yes, I do mean in a way that is not pensive or presumptuous, right? But something that is arduous, something that requires a lot of effort, a lot of serious effort, not just something that is for us individually, right? Like to think about the vision, to think about the future, to plan, right? To be transparent, right? Because we are very stuck in a wheel or circle of having to reinvent the wheel, right? We are being forced at every single freaking turn to have to reinvent the wheel, because people do not want to go against tradition. People don't want change because people don't want to think for themselves. And I think that it really comes down to what we want individually, because it is really obvious at this point that it's gonna take a lot of very, very arduous work. It's gonna take a lot of arduous knowledge in philosophy, not just perspective and intuition. Does that make sense? So I want to encourage you guys, because they are scared, and that's the reason why I'm saying they don't want to go against tradition, because they don't want to think for themselves, because at the end of the day, that is because they're scared. So we need to be deconstructing, what are we scared of? What do we allow and believe in and don't believe in, and what do we stand against when it comes to our beliefs, because that is what is gonna lead us to being straightforward, right? That's gonna lead for us to be direct with our philosophy, and not just based on intuition, but through leadership, right? Through ambition, through elevating culture for what we believe in, through our philosophy, through our symbolism, through our lives, through our culture, through our lifestyle. Is deconstructing what makes us mad, what breaks us down, what do we want to protect the future generations from, and what do we want to allow and what we don't want to allow. So to ask those questions, to deconstruct that, because I have been doing it for not that long, and I've realized how scared people really are to go against tradition out of fear. They stick to what they understand because they don't want to feel the questioning, the existentialism, the sadness, or the anger, right? But when we break it down and continue to get answers, who's gonna back us up if nobody was doing it in the first place? So it is a very, very long road. That's why I always push for you guys to communicate in the comments, to connect with somebody. Profit culture is not just a brand, a spiritual brand, a life coaching brand. It's also a network for you to get connected for free at that, to people that are genuine, to people that are authentic, to build our presence, right? And it starts with individuality before it will ever get to community, right? Because each individual person is what holds the polarity. Each individual person is what holds the power through connection, right? So that being said, I just want to encourage you guys to also speak your truth. And that is because, in a time where people are scared, people are angry, people feel justified, but at the same time, nobody is morally responsive, right? Nobody is, what's the word I'm thinking of? Conscientious, right? Nobody is responsible, right? Conscientious. I think we need to also be loud. We can heal as loud as we can in the time that we live in. We are in a time where expression is our freedom. Expression is our freedom. And when you learn, you guys, listen to me when I say this, Prophet. Listen to me when I say this. That when we learn the overcoming, when we learn the patterns, when we learn the creativity, when we learn the perspective, that is when we are ready for alignment. That's when we become ready for structure. That's when we, the balance in the personal growth, the transformation, the elevation that comes after the overcoming, after the patterns, after the courage to heal as loud as we can. That's why I want you guys, and I want to be the one to encourage you to heal loudly, heal as loud as you want to, because that is your freedom. The world is so convoluted right now, and it's very meticulous, but the answer, no matter how meticulous it gets, is healing as loud as you can. And that being said, we're going to take a quick break, a quick interlude, and we will be back after this short message. And I want to encourage you guys, while the message is playing, If you want to skip it, the timestamps to do so will be down below. Just skip ahead if you don't want to sit through it. But I want to encourage you guys to go and get food, snacks, drinks, all that stuff, notes to get comfortable, because the rest of the video is going to get deeper and we're going to dive deeper into a more conscious message after this interlude. So, as some of you guys know, last Saturday I decided to organize a protest. And today I wanted to make a video letting you guys know how it went. Now, before you judge me, let me explain this mission, because this was not just any protest. This was about public decency. This was about self-respect. This is about hygiene and the epidemic that nobody in society is brave enough to talk about, and your boy had the conversation. I'm talking about people who never changed their underwear. Yeah, you know who they are. You're out there walking around, living life, committing fabric crimes. So I said to myself, you know what? Society needs leadership. And unfortunately, that leadership turned out to be me. So I make a sign, a big sign, cardboard, permanent marker. It said, change your underwear. Your mom would be disappointed. Now, in my mind, this is going to be huge. I'm thinking it's going to be a movement. I'm picturing crowds, news coverage, documentaries. Netflix is going to call it the laundry revolution. Yeah. So I go down to the park, set up my sign, take a deep breath, and start my speech. People of this city, no one turns around. There's like 6 people nearby. A guy walking his dog, 2 teenagers eating tacos, an old man feeding pigeons in the background. But I commit, because movements always start small. So I start preaching. Ladies and gentlemen, look inside yourselves. A woman walking by stops. Hope begins to rise. Ask yourself the question, when was the last time you changed your underwear? And she immediately walks faster. Which I consider a victory, because guilt has entered the chat. And now the guy walking his dog stops and he goes, what? So I step out on a bench, and because I'm a great leader, I need some elevation. And I go, sir, your mother did not raise you to wear the same underwear for 3 days. And his dog looked concerned. That man looked like he regretted leaving the house. But I continue, because momentum is building. Imagine your mom walking into your room right now. Imagine her disappointment. Imagine her holding a clothespin on her nose. The teacher eating tacos is now recording me, which I think the message is spreading. Little did I know they were posting it on TikTok under the title Unhinged Underwear Man. Yeah, found that when I got home. Now a small crowd begins to gather. And by a small crowd, I mean like 8 people. But revolution has to start somewhere, with nothing less. So I raise my sign and shout, this is about accountability. This is about fabric hygiene. This is about the elastic waistband of justice. And now that old man is in the crowd. And he goes, son, are you okay? And I say, no, Siri, I am not okay. Because somewhere in the city Right now, there's a grown adult wearing Tuesday underwear on Saturday, and the crowd starts laughing, which again, I interpreted it as support. So I lean into it. Your mom doesn't carry you for 9 months just so you can disrespect Cotton like this. Do you think ancestors fought wars so you could marinate in your own laundry decisions? Now the teenagers are laughing so hard they can barely hold the camera steady. The dog has laid down because the dog knows the protest is going nowhere. And then the moment happens. A guy in the back crowd raises his hand like we're in a classroom and he goes, "Bro, are you telling people to protest their own underwear?" And I say, "Yes, this is a movement. This is personal responsibility. This is laundry awareness." And the guy goes, "You could have just tweeted that." And honestly, that hurt. Yeah. But suddenly I realized something. Nobody here thinks this is a protest. They think this is a mental health episode with cardboard. And right as this realization hits, the park security guard walks over. Now the security guard looks at my sign, looks at the crowd, looks at me standing on the bench screaming about underwear, and he says, "Sir, what exactly is going on here?" And I say, "Sir, I am fighting for basic hygiene." And he nods slowly, like someone who has heard stranger things, but not by much. Then he says, "Sir, you're causing a disturbance." Now, I try to defend the movement. This is peaceful. This is necessary. This is the Underwear Accountability Initiative. But he just sighs. "Sir, please step down from the bench." And just like that, the protest ended. The crowd disappeared. The teenagers uploaded that video. The dog, he forgot I existed. And I walk home carrying my sign like a defeated revolutionary. But listen, even though the rally failed, even though society laughed, even though I was labeled unhinged, if even one person in that park went home that day, opened that drawer, and chose a fresh pair, then the moment was worth it. Because somewhere, a mom out there is slightly less disappointed. up, you guys? What's up, you guys? I'm just waiting for everybody to come to the stream. Waiting for people to come in. You know how it goes. How you guys? What's up? What's up? Hey, how are you guys doing? Yes, I was live this morning. I was live. Oh, no, it's fine. You can stay. It's fine. I was only online for like 40 minutes. Again. Yeah, I was saying yesterday that I won't be doing long form. That's a totally different thing. I won't be doing long live streams no time soon until I get a job, because I'm only on here to try to get help because I don't have a job and it's already been 4 months. My family is helping me with my rent, so I'm on here asking for gifts, and other than that, I'm not on here. Yeah. What's up, you guys? Hey, what's up, prophets? So today, we're not starting yet. We're about to start in a little bit, though. I'm just waiting. We already got like 300 people. Today we are actually gonna have a conversation, unlike the last couple of live streams. Hold on, I have to sneeze. It wouldn't come out. Oh, I'm about to drop it. Okay. Ooh, I was just about to say my hands are too full right now because I'm trying to only hold my phone in one hand with nothing else in it, and I'm holding everything else in my arms and in my hands. You can't see it though. My hands are full. Then I like shifted and started moving stuff around. And I realized, nope, full is an understatement. My hands, I need to put some of this shit down. Hold on. Today we're talking about self-regulation. Uh, we're talking about self-regulation, and we're talking about collective ethics. Because I want to have a conversation, because I don't know. I was thinking about it recently. I really want to dump that. It's not my business, but I want to dump it. It's not my business being political, because I don't have no place being political, because I am a radicalist at heart. Everything activates me. Everything activates me to stand against capitalism, to stand against the corporate standard and the belief system that people don't even believe in, but they still hold it up. And I feel like I need to get radical. So it's not my place to be political, because I'm gonna say some far left shit that's gonna piss a lot of people off. Y'all know I don't care about that. About pissing people off. I'll piss anybody off. I probably do anyways. So I don't try not to, but I also don't try to go out of my way to piss people off. So it's not my place to be political, but um, you know, I've been feeling really activated in this time, especially with Trump as president.
Um, and I'm realizing that being quiet is not my place to. It's not my place to be quiet and just not say anything and be very passive and let all this stuff slide. Right? I'm realizing that that's not my place in all of this. So I also am do not feel I also do not feel like it's my place to. Sorry, I saw a cat. I feel like I had to. I'm gonna go show it in a second. Um, it's also not my place to be making announcements and giving information and dates. But you know what? I was realizing I was sharing speeches from the No Kings protest because they had that all across the nation. You guys know that, right? Right? You come on now. Y'all know that, right? Y'all talking shit about Trump, but y'all didn't know nothing about the No Kings protest. I was posting because everybody's talking about, oh my gosh, Trump is doing all this, and the people are protesting at best. Other people talking about, oh my God, Trump is doing this, and he's fucking up this, and he's messing up that. But nobody's talking about the positive things that were said at the No Kings protest. A lot of people spoke in a lot of different states. Come on now, people. If 5 people spoke at each protest in all 50 states, because it was in all 50 states, that's a lot of people. Come on now. Come on now, you guys. I want to encourage y'all to go look it up in your state. Go look it up. Go look up the public speakers that spoke in Washington, and at least go look up the public speakers that spoke in New York. Come on now. That's the least y'all can do. All this talking shit about Trump and what Trump is doing, I do not care about that. And if you're stupid in my life, I will kick you out of my life. I will kick you. I'm getting admins very, very soon. So all the bullshit that be happening in the chats, because I do see it. I do see it. Will not be it. But I was posting the public speakers that spoke in Dallas, and it rained in Dallas when it happened. I was posting that instead of contributing to the chaos, right? And I kept continuing to see content about people saying that it was a violent protest, even though it wasn't a violent protest. But they were saying it because they knew it wasn't a violent protest to get a reaction, right? It's all like rage bait content at this point on both sides. It's ridiculous. But it really brought to light for me that it's not my place to be quiet on this one. So I am feeling really activated. I don't know what we're gonna do, what's gonna happen yet, but I do know be looking forward to some content um every now and then in the next 3 weeks, because I do have to talk about it. But Black History Month is tomorrow. If yeah, it's tomorrow, if not the day after tomorrow. I don't know if there's gonna be a 31st. Um Black History Month is coming, so we do have to talk about that as well. The schedule is very, very full right now. I'm very booked and busy. I apologize, but I'm gonna make time to talk about everything all at once. I can do it. I got that. Just be here, be in tune, and tap in. You guys, don't take no information from me, because y'all know I hate that. Don't claim you're a prophet and you're not doing anything with the knowledge that you're getting here, or the connection that you're getting with the people. All right, none of us want that from you. We don't want that from you. So if you're in the chat making friends and connections and networking like you're supposed to be doing, because you are supposed to be doing that. Sorry if I sound sick. Like, honestly. And it's crazy because I was debating with somebody yesterday. I had to straight up tell him, because he was telling me, the conversation got started because he was telling me about how he's racially ambiguous, but in the context of being racist, right? And he only gets upset when people bring up race when it has nothing to do with anything. He's a white man. Um, he grew up around black people in an all predominantly white school. He hung out with the black kids that played football. He was friends with them, right? I had to straight up let him know, like towards the middle, the peak of the conversation, I am racist. I critique white people very rapidly, very unconcerned, very, I hold nothing back because white people deserve criticism. White people deserve criticism. Now, is this platform the place for that? No, but I have done that several times on platforms. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And I think that it was well deserved. So before you go looking for it, I think it was well deserved. Okay, oh Lord, God bless me in this conversation that you just use me as a vessel to bring peace and light and understanding, if not enlightenment, to everybody that is gonna hear hear a message from this platform at any time. God, just help me communicate to the best of my ability, past my willingness, and bring me more understanding and more enlightenment and more knowledge. Because I will forever seek after the truth after I continue to seek after you. And that's all I got to say about that. So, we're talking about collective ethics at the end of the day. So I want you to keep this in mind because this context is, I'm not going to say groundwork. I'm not saying groundwork because I always say that. Y'all know I always say that. I'm not saying groundwork, but it is the context of today's conversation. Because we need to have a conversation about self-regulation. I think that self-regulation is a struggle, and especially in today's times, it's more apparent more than ever because people do not want to self-regulate because they don't want to face themselves. It's apparent who's doing the inner work, right, in every community, not just this community, in every community, not just the spiritual community, not just the far left or the far right. Um, the people who don't stand for any political belief, right? It's everybody as a whole. It is trash. It's complete trash. And we need to talk and have conversations about self-regulation and people's ability to do it. So that's the groundwork for today because I think personally, I have mastered self-regulation. I'm always learning stuff through my ability to self-regulate. Um, kind of in a sense of, I understand when I'm using that. You know what I mean? Some of y'all can, because it takes a lot of reflection. It takes a long time to be able to reflect in your center. And, a lot of people don't even understand their center, right? And that scares them. They don't want to deal with that because they don't understand, because of fear that they don't understand themselves, basically, right? But when you have centered, eventually down your path, you start understanding self-regulation a little bit at a time. And after a couple of years of self-regulation and evaluating self, right? Because, a lot of occult magic is know thyself, right? Know thyself before you know anything else, right? That's knowledge at the end of the day. But to understand other people in the sense of you don't have to, I'm always complaining about the fact that people get to be so selfish and unaware and dumb because they are, you know, privileged to be able to just duck responsibility because they don't want to be self-aware. At the end of the day, that's fine for a person to person, but at the end of the day, when the entire collective, it has gone to he double hockey sticks, that's bad. That's not good. And we need to be more um prevalent. Is that the word? we need to be more observant of it. I don't understand why people think that that is so safe. It's so annoying, first of all, because you don't think that, you know, those responsibilities and way past those responsibilities, those obligations are gonna have to fall on someone else. And then you contradict yourself. You don't believe in obligation, but you're bragging about your responsibilities. Of course you're taking care of your responsibilities. That's your livelihood. Are you stupid? But that's neither here nor there, because as a collective it's gone to shit because people don't know how to reflect on themselves. People don't want to face themselves. I was reading a book. It was like a month ago. I still haven't finished it. I'm towards the end of it. And towards the second half of it, it probably was in the second half. It was, he said something about, people will do anything to never have to face themselves. And part of our spiritual journey might have to be the fact that we have to accept that in a lot of people. A lot of us have had to go no contact with our parents because, they are just so closed-minded, and they tried to raise you to be so religious when being religious was never for you. Do you understand that that's just not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. But at the same time, that does not mean that we have to accept that that is what it is, because it's not. At the end of the day, being religious is not for everybody. Being aware is an obligation. And people who talk about patriotism, and I'm going to get to that, just hold on 3 seconds. People who talk about patriotism, people who talk about handling the responsibility, people who falsely, prophesy about the future of America in the state of America when none of that really, really applies, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about representation, not about voice. Because someone can be louder does not mean that they are right. It's about representation, because those people would not be in a place of representing an entire state if it was not for the people that they're representing. That does not mean that we have to accept the fact that they do not want to be aware, that they can't, because they can't face themselves. So we need to have conversation with these people about what they think self-regulation is. What is self-regulation to these people? What is self-regulation to you? Does it feel like a test? Does it feel like the STAR test? I have to sit y'all with the STAR test. Does it feel like the STAR test? Does it feel like the SAT? Does it feel like responsibility? Does it feel like expectation? What does it feel like to you? Because these are the questions that you need to know and understand, and how they apply to you, Prophet. Because at the end of the day, it's not about, it will never be about whose voice can be the loudest. It will never be about that. It's about the people that need to be represented. That is patriotism. And the reason I brought that up is because they are claiming this "Make America Great Again" as this default. And at this time, it's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle that I'm gonna be a bad president, and that's all he's doing. That's all he is. At the end of the day, a bad president. There's nothing new about that. There's nothing new that he's gonna do. There's nothing that he's really gonna do to ruin America that America hasn't done to itself. Okay? So I want you to take that home with you, wrap it up, put it in your pocket for now, because there's no such thing as bad times if America is always in bad times. Because identity is in direct correlation to self-reflection. Because when you understand that, you can understand what you put out into the world, what you choose to receive, and how you make it work for what it is can very much be a reflection of who you are. So, Prophet, I want you to know that there is a time and a place where people are going to actively, it's going to be apparent. How about that? It's going to be obvious that people are, not able to face themselves. People don't want to face the mirror of who they are because of the struggle that they don't want to understand or know that it's not easy. They don't want to know that they are confused. They don't want to know that it is confusing. Does that make sense, Prophet? So we need to be a lot more aware. Now, if you're wondering what that has to do with collective ethics, we're gonna get to it. What's up, you guys? What's up? So we're talking about self-regulation and collective ethics. If you guys want to be filled in, I will fill you in. Just send me emojis in the chat and I will recap everything. But we're not done talking about self-regulation, but it all ties into what we're going to talk about collective ethics. That really had me going. And you know what else I just thought? Off the top of my head just now, a couple of seconds ago, I was like, what makes people stay on live for hours and hours out of the day? If like, what apps? I mean, like, okay, because there are apps. I know that there are apps that require a certain hours of live stream a month for them to continue to be active, for you to get paid from the app, right? But it's like some of y'all are not getting paid to do that. Why are y'all on these apps for 3 hours at a time? All day. That's all day. Every day. 7 days a week. Like, that's crazy. What will possess you to give your time and energy out into the open like that? What is that? What is that nonsense? That's insane to me. Because somebody... No, but see, the thing is, I'm being serious. Dealing with, like... Nuh-uh. No. No, I'm being serious though. Like, what would possess you? What is that? Then nonsense. That is true nonsense to me. What's up, you guys? Hi, Myra. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat, Myra. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the silver sales. Thank you. So I was just, I don't know. It seems hectic at the moment, but you have to understand that it will come down. It will get better. Because the only thing that's really happening right now, the only thing that's really happening right now is you can tell who doesn't want to self-reflect and who doesn't. I mean, who does and who doesn't, right? And you know what? I'm going to kick you for that. I am going to kick you out of my chat for that. But before I do, just know that's okay. Because I did say one day I'm going to have my own agency. And I am going to have my own agency one day. And I can proudly say that I did it from doing long ass live streams every day. And I'll be proud of that. But you won't be in my chat with that. There, you got a response out of me, but now you're not in my chat. How you feel now? How do you feel about that? I cannot wait to get these admins, bro. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of people don't want to self-reflect. A lot of people don't know how. They're scared to. They don't understand. It's confusing. It's hard work. Another thing, and I want you to take this one home too, is that I know for 100% of a fact that this is a battle of it's really exposing people who don't know the difference between responsibility and obligation. That's why I want to encourage you guys this live stream to know the difference between a responsibility and an obligation. It's not about me teaching you the definition of that word or the other. You should know what a responsibility is because that's what they're saying. But you should know what a obligation is, babe. And all my prophets in here, I will start kicking y'all if y'all do not have no obligation for this live stream. I've said that already. I said that at the beginning of this chat. You guys know the difference. So now is the time to start acting like it's not a job, but it's our obligation to. It's not a job, but it's our obligation to. Does that make sense? I'm getting real spiritual right now with y'all. Because there are bigger things. And I was preaching about this yesterday to a big ass group of people. Unashamed too, right? That today's times are very hectic, but it will not last forever. And I told every single person that. I announced it before I started the conversation. But, I did also say that the thing about it is, and you know what? I'm just now realizing this on a side tangent. It's crazy because I was saying, I have been feeling very, very activated. I don't feel like I understand the obligation of that because I already know and understand the responsibility of it. Being loud, being, to go against the wave actively, to be very, um, it just takes going against the wave, right? But why do I feel activated? Why do I feel so activated to get loud, to, want to raise my voice, to want to protest? Because I should. And I said this, I can't say it was like a year ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. But I'm not saying all the stuff that I'm going to say when talking about activism because I'm trying to scare you. I'm saying it because I was scared too. That's why I'm saying it. Make it make sense at the end of the day. But moving forward about this self-regulation stuff, so we need to be reflecting profits on ourselves, on others. Where's our obligation to each other in the chat? right now. You could be doing something while you're listening to this. It's not hard. You guys, if y'all are not active, get out of my chat. My chat is not for you. You can go to one of those spiritual gurus and get all that and then some. But you're not going to be in my chat sitting still. This is not a comfort zone. You owe us some comfort, because if we're not making you uncomfortable, but it takes the self-reflection. It takes to know your identity. They don't want to face themselves. Remember that and remind them. Go out there and remind them. You don't want to face yourself before you ever think that you can come and try to face me. That's not really the real world. That's how the world works in your head, not on the outside. Your false illusions are proof that you're delusional. Huh? Your false illusions are proof that you're delusional. You can't hide in a bubble for long. Bubbles are only destined to pop. What are we talking about? Be for real. But anyways, that has to do with self-regulation, because I think that in a time where there's a very much lack of self-regulation, that is plenty of space and opportunity for the prophets, hint hint, to get active. Don't y'all want to get active? As much as I be charging y'all up and trying to get y'all ready for something, don't y'all want to be active? So listen, it's not about status. It's not about none of that. It's not about none of that. It's not about the words that can form common sense. We know common sense because that's what common sense is. It's about what's deep rooted. It's about the symbolism of life, right? So we need to be speaking those things into life, and we need to be breathing life into each other. So just remember that, okay? Because we're going to come back around to it. What's up, you guys? How many people we got? We got 3.8K in the chat. What's good? That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. What's good? But yeah, it's going to take for us to get... It's going to take for y'all to have to get active. Y'all going to have to wake up and understand that these are not hard times. These are times for us to get up and use that space and opportunity. So I think that it's important that we have conversations about, collective first, because I think that there is a time and a place where that applies, right? Stick with me, chat. Stick with me. I think that there's a time and a place where that applies, but at the end of the day, people, we as prophets, right? We need to stop respecting, literally. We need to stop respecting people who don't have their own individuality. And I'm saying that because that is a real source of power right now. That is a real source of power, is the individuality of it. So I think we need to start celebrating people's authenticity. Yes, we need to start celebrating people's authenticity, but people who don't have their own individual identity, right? People who don't have their own individual identity, people who pretend like they don't have a voice, people who aren't in control of their narrative, right? We need to start writing those people off immediately. Those people are not on our level to start off with. Second of all, I think we need to start raising the standard consistently with communication. And I'm saying that because I think that with communication, we can continue to grow as individuals and as a unit, right? It just makes sense. It makes sense for us to communicate our growth, communicate our transformation together, because the only way that they're going to break us down, the only way they're going to break us down is if they decide that they can or decipher that can separate us, single us out, and they can't do that without communication. It is vital. It is important. The next thing is sticking to what's relevant. We need to be sticking to what's relevant. Are y'all paying attention, chat? Send me emojis. Thank you for the silver shells. Thank you for the diamonds. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. It's gold. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Outlaw 13. Thank you. And hi. Yes, welcome to the chat. Thank you guys for the diamonds. Thank you guys for the scrolls. I appreciate it. We raised a little bit of money this chat. That's great. But we need to be sticking to what's relevant. Come on, you guys. We need to be sticking to the bigger picture. That is our power. I say that a lot. Yes, I say that a lot because you guys need to understand what you need to value, what is important, what represents you, what you can represent, and you need to know your power at every second of the time that we're spending on this earth, because we are powerful, and I will never let you forget that. Next thing. Oh, but first, we need to be thinking about what is relevant, because it's easy for them to lose the bigger picture when we're arguing about a bigger picture that they don't see. Yeah, but when they don't get the point, they're not gonna have a point to serve. Yeah, that part. Because we're smart enough to to okay, they want to do small circles, we can do small circles. We can outrun them at any type of lap. We know we can. But we're not communicating with each other about what's important, what's not important, what we need to stick to, what we don't need to stick to, what we need to get rid of, what doesn't, you know, you know, what doesn't serve us anymore, what we honor. But anything, the next one is that we need to be, you know, what's the word for it? Not, well, yeah, honor is it, but we need to be living and walking. We need to be walking our value systems. What is a value system? A value system, chat. Someone said the machine. That's right. Someone said they don't know. That's a good start. That's a great start. The values we hold. Yep, that's right, Ashley. Because without that, what is our journey? And y'all need to pay attention, chat, because I'm being so serious right now. The prophecy is coming. There will be a time when our power is at its peak. There will be a time where it's time for us to be called. There will be times when it's time for us to be called out. Are we going to be ready? Are we going to be ready? What are we valuing? What are we calling important? What are the things that we have um that we call on, that we give a name to? Because I hope it's not the things that they told you in high school, the things that they told you about the real world. I hope it's not. We need to be so for real. We need to be so for real, and we need to be honest with ourselves, because it's the only way that we can be cohesive. The only way we can stick together. Are y'all ready for that? With that being said, a quick break. We are all in a spiritual group online. Not profit culture. I know you're thinking I'm talking about profit culture, not profit culture, but we are all in a spiritual group online. And I want you guys to join, but you have to be ready to self reflect. You have to be ready to do the inner work, or shadow work, or the mind work, or to, work overtime to understand and give yourself grace. It's going to be hard, but we are all in an online group. It's called Life Society. If you guys want to join, welcome to the chat, you guys. No, we're just getting started. So, you know, just relax, chill. But if you guys want to join, thank you for the sub scrolls. You can find the link in my bio on all my social media profiles. It's a Telegram group, so you're gonna need the Telegram app. It's a tight niche spiritual group. And if this is your first live, because we have almost double the normal amount of people that we normally have on the live stream right now. If this is your first time and you like this live stream, you need to tap in at our Telegram group. It's called Life Society. The link will be in the bio of all my social media. On Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, all of it. Twitter, all of it. The link is in the bio for all of those. You need to join, because we connect. We connect, and not only do we connect, we network for each other. We pull strings for each other. I'm pulling strings for everybody. Can you imagine? So it's a lot of work on me to carry all of that, and I'm doing it. Pulling strings for everybody, doing everything I can to get everybody what they need, but to also get everybody where they need to be for their moment of truth, for their awakening, so we can all be united and be enlightened and together on the same page. Okay, you guys, so find the link on my bio, on all my social media, including the app. So thank you guys. But thank you. Sorry, I'm so sorry. If you were sending me seals, the silver, sorry. If you sent me silver seals, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, I am sick. I was talking about that yesterday. Yeah, I did not feel good at all yesterday. I only live streamed once. That's how you know I didn't feel good. I'm normally on here 3 times. I was only on here today twice. That's how you know I don't feel good. But yeah, the group is active all day, every single day of the week. If you need anything, network, talk to people, communicate. It's a group, it's a network, it's a family. Okay, you guys. But anyways, back to the point. Let's get back to it. So I think, somewhere along the lines, when it comes to collective ethics, we need to have our own collective ideas, our own collective ideologies. What are we standing for? What do we believe in? What do we value? What are we holding close to us? What do we call it? What do we name it, right? Because living in this society that does not work for us, that does not, help us, does not benefit us at all. It only capitalizes on our suffering and our creativity and the things that we love to take them from us. We need to be making our own. Doesn't that make sense? So that's why this community is so important. That's why profit culture is so important, because the only thing profit culture is communication in a network. At the end of the day, that's all it is. Y'all think I'm doing a lot. There's a lot more that needs to be done. There's a lot more that needs to be done. And I'm going as fast as I can, running headfirst into the fucking darkness, and I don't know what's out there. I need y'all to have my back the same way I have your back. And I will pull a million thousand strings every day, over and over and over again, until you get there. Nothing will stop me from that. So I need y'all to have my back at least enough to push the I'm gonna say culture, at least enough to push the group forward. Communicate, network, be happy, engage, okay? But that's how we're gonna make our own at the end of the day. In calling it what we want to call it. No more calling it what they taught us. No more um I'm gonna say leading. No more following what we've been taught. We're gonna make our own. And that's the importance of today's live stream. So let's get into it, because we're gonna talk about collective ethics. Because is it about race? Is it about money? Is it about power? Because at the end of the day, we can wrap our minds around the fact that it's about the substance of the power, the mindset of money. But what about responsibility to obligation? Huh? Huh, chat? What about the future? Because if you think about it, they can plan and plan and plan all they want to, but are they really thinking about the future, or are they thinking about their responsibilities? And it's not my place to go and say that what they are doing, what they're not doing. I don't really care about that, because that's objective, right? But what is subjective is that the future can be planned for, so we should plan for it. It's that simple. Why are we not thinking about the future? Why are we not thinking and planning for tomorrow, in the day after that, in the day after that, in the day after that? You want to know why? Because it's our God-given right. Because the past is the past, and there's nothing that we can do about that. But our power is in the fact that at least we have tomorrow. in a world that wants to teach you you can't think about tomorrow and the past is already gone. So chat, tell me the truth. Tell me the truth, chat. Who wants to be in the right now? Because I don't. I don't. I do not even a little bit. And see, that's the thing. We need to be, because we have the power to, we should. Because we can, we should. We should. That is our power. See? And I'm gonna say it a million more times in this live stream. That's crazy. And the thing is that the machine doesn't want us to think like that, to work like that. But that is why profit culture is here to enable you to do that, to enable you to live in your power, to enable you to be strong, but not to settle. Profits might have to work through hard times, might have to face challenges, might have to be in the dark a lot more than they are in the light. But one thing we will never do is be a person that settles. Does that make sense? We will never be that. Come on, chat. Are y'all with me? It's so spiritual. That is so spiritual to me. That we can be enlightened by our God-given talents and gifts and knowing and the awareness, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I don't want you guys to miss it, okay? So, I think that has to do with collective ethics, because it needs to be rewritten, which we already went over. And you know what? The crazy part about it is a lot of people are scared. And it's okay if you're scared. I'm not scared. I would never be scared to live my truth, to verbalize my truth, but it's okay. But one thing I know for a fact is that when it gets hard and when it gets, too hard to deal with, when it gets overwhelming, that is not going to last forever if there isn't, unless, I'm sorry, my brain, it's not going to be hard forever unless you are trying to use the safety of your comfort zone. Just remember that. Because there is no safety in your comfort zone. If you're scared, get active, move. No matter what you do, just move. It doesn't matter what you do, just move. If you're fatigued, rest. If you're angry, talk about it, communicate. And if you're broken, take some time for yourself. Those should be our collective ethics. Because it's so easy to get lost in it. It's so easy to get lost in the sauce. But at the end of the day, we gotta do what we gotta do, because us participating in the collection of the machine is no longer okay to settle for. It's not it's not okay to settle for that anymore. We got to keep it pushing, keep it going. We got to make a plan. We got to make shit happen. At the end of the day, that might be all we have right now, but it won't be what we have. I mean, it won't be all we have forever. Just remember that. Just remember that. I don't think that we should be, living in fear. I don't think that we should be doubting that our future is going to be okay, especially when we have the power to take control. So what are we going to do about it?
Can't you see? You get breaking. Can't you see? You get breaking. Can't you see? You get
So this is my critique of narcissist ideology. One of the most under-examined forces that's animating the far-right movements right now, that's animating the manosphere, that's fueling, modern traditionalist thinking is not just misogyny. It's not just politics to get a reaction out of you, or fear mongering, right? Or genuine social change at that, but a deeply narcissistic worldview that reframes social life as a prediction, that belief systems imagines the world as a zero sum hierarchy, right? Where dominance is the virtue, where empathy is weakness, right? Understanding is weakness, and um survival only belongs to the people that are willing to be ruthless, the people who are willing to be reckless, the people who are willing to sacrifice, right? To make it bigger. And in this framework, power is not something negotiated collectively, like it should be. It's something taken, it's something defended, it's something hoarded, and that's the problem. At its core, narcissism is not self-love, but self-absorption, mixed together with having a fragile mind, right? Because a lot of these, like Jordan Peterson or Ethan Klein, or a little bit further down the rabbit hole, people who virtue signal, like Nux Taku, right? It requires constant validation. It requires an external enemy, right? That they collectively group up and power against, right? Like this fake narrative. And it's a story that the self is always exceptional and always under siege. When narcissism becomes ideological, it stops being a personal pathology, right, and becomes a political weapon. And this is where predator ideology emerges. And that's the problem because predator ideology teaches that society is a jungle. Some people are wolves and some people are sheep. This language is not accidental, it's on purpose, and it strips humans of the moral complexity and replaces it with animal hierarchy. In far right movements, this logic is used to justify authoritarianism and racial hierarchy, right? It it's used to justify violence. And in the manosphere, sorry, in the manosphere, it is deployed to frame relationships being between men and women as warfare, right? As a token, as leverage, right? And in traditionalist thinking, it's disguised as natural order, right? Whatever that is. A selective reading of history used to sanctify domination, right? And it's obvious that it's domination. And groups like the Proud Boys thrive off of this narrative. Their message glorifies aggression and loyalty to male authority and the idea that civilization is perpetually on the brink of collapse every day. When's it going to fall apart then? Because men have become soft. The solution that they argue that they're always talking about is a return to hardness, a return to discipline, a return to obedience, a return to force. But what goes unacknowledged is how closely this mirrors narcissist self mythology. So that's why we're having this conversation about narcissist ideology. So they basically say, just like the Proud Boys, they basically preach this message of I am strong because the world is weak. I am right because others are corrupt when they have no proof or evidence. And the manosphere amplifies this logic in more quiet spaces. And this is what gets me because influencers and figures like Andrew Tate, like Jordan Peterson, they frame masculinity as a performance. Why? Because they are performers. First of all, they're performers of dominance and wealth and sexual control. And women in this worldview are not autonomous. They don't have any autonomy. They don't have any agency of their own because they're supposed to be subjected to the discipline and masculinity of the male and submit to that. They're treated like resources, right? Status objects to be acquired, managed, they get discarded, and consent becomes secondary to being a token, like I said earlier, right? Emotional intimacy is plastered on the wall on display because that's all it's good for in their heads for emotional intimacy as manipulation. They see femininity as vulnerable. They see femininity as something to be mocked, and that's why they mock it. This is not about confidence. It's about narcissist compensation, right? Predator ideology flourishes precisely where identity is brittle. The declaration of alpha status, the more they betray an underlying fear of irrelevance. Narcissist systems can't tolerate ambiguity or equality because both threaten the fantasy of superiority. Thus, the world must be simplified into winners and losers of the race of life or some stupid shit like that. Like some shit Jordan Peterson would say. And and to this day, I still cannot believe that day that podcast came out or that interview came out when he said he wonders if what the negative criticisms are saying is a claim for defamation. Well, have you ever thought that people are blatantly trying to disrespect you because they don't respect what you do? They don't respect what you do. Traditionalist thinking often claims to be more respectable, cloaked in appeals of religion, history. It goes on and on. Biological, um, not morality, biological purpose, right? But at the same time, the past is romanticized as a time of clear roles and everything was perfect. No questioning the authority. Mostly the males, especially if it was a hierarchy, and women are casted off to the side to be the caretakers, to sacrifice, to carry the real weight, while the men are being fake providers, fake rulers, fake kings when they're really cavemen. And deviating from this script and labeling it unnatural or dangerous is so stupid because what makes the ideology particularly fucking insidious is it's selective memory. It's cherry picking, especially in history. Cherry picking. Oh, well, there's a case study that says, okay, and there are fiction books that say the same thing. What are we talking about? I hate it. I hate how history is treated as a static lesson rather than somebody actually learning from it. One person that's up there could learn from it, and there would be change. The fact that traditional gender roles were enforced through law, violence, and not giving up on the excuse me on the economic coercion is conveniently ignored, and it's so weird how y'all get to cherry pick. And predator logic reshapes coercion as order and submission as harmony. And people like Jordan Peterson are so often cited, sometimes accurately, sometimes not, within these circles to lend intellectual legitimacy to this stupid, ignorant hierarchy. While Peterson works is more nuanced, like as he claims, not like he claims, as he claims it is nuanced than many other online influencers, content creators, figures. And the way his ideas are popularized often reduces complex psychology observations into just blunt moral opinions. Hierarchies are natural. Suffering is necessary. And attempting to level power with naive thinking or being destructive in the hands of narcissist ideologies, it will become a justification for cruelty, for inequality, for a lot of unfair stuff to happen. And narcissist ideologies also depend on constant threat. Feminism is portrayed as it's not a movement for equality, but it's an existential attack on men. Queer and trans people are framed as evidence of the way that civilization is falling apart. Immigration is a cast of an invasion, right? A sign of war. If you want to go to war, then just say that. But this perpetual emergency allows narcissist leaders to corrupt minds to convince easily the people who don't want to think for themselves already and be an influence to present themselves as the ready hero. If the world is always ending, when is it going to end? And honestly, I think that idea, narcissist ideologies is this worldview that erodes genuine masculinity rather than actually putting it back together like they claim that they're trying to do every fucking year and still haven't done it yet. It teaches men that you're supposed to suppress empathy, and that's a lie. It teaches men you're supposed to outsource self worth to dominance. That's a lie. It teaches you dominance is a currency, masculinity is a currency. That is a lie. That is a lie. It teaches you that a genuine connection and to interpret that connection means vulnerability. That is a lie. It goes on and on. Relationships become transactions in this fucking stupid nation that we live in. Community becomes competition. Even other men are not allies of each other. They're just rivals waiting to beat each other over the head with their cave stick as soon as they can. Because it's a competition. And when you turn community into competition, it becomes a status of the economy that is never satisfied. This narcissist belief system, this narcissist ideology fails because it misunderstands human strength. It never takes human strength into consideration. It never takes hope into consideration. It never takes real faith into consideration. Cooperation, not domination, is what society needs to change. Emotional intelligence, not fucking fear mongering like you fucking idiots do, is what keeps the relationship together. The ability to tolerate differences, not just get rid of whatever you fear. And I think it's this weird connection between you want so badly to have a life, to have that life that's a part of society, that's actively in communities and active and being engaged, but you're not. and you pretend to be, but you're not. And that goes for everybody I mentioned. You pretend to be actively engaged, but you're not. And so you take advantage of it. You take it for granted because you don't understand human strength. But, I also think this narcissistic system that they have can't even recognize the truth because they threaten this fantasy power system that does not exist and create a whole meaning for it. Just completely world building. The far right, the manosphere, is myth making. Not only is it myth making, you are not really political. You have no political positioning. You have no political standing. Not for real. And you know it. They are identity cages that you put yourself in. They are identity hiding spots. A treehouse for your identity that you can go and hide in. For people struggling with dislocation and rapid in a crazy changing world. Just can't shut up about the way everything used to be. But instead of offering tools to change, to adapt, to shift, to learn, to grow, to evolve, you give us scapegoats. You give us supremacy. You give us false narratives. And if there's anything out of the three I don't want, keep your supremacy. Keep your scapegoats, because I will never be your fucking scapegoat. Keep your false narratives because that will never help me in my entire life. It never will. And you promise, but haven't fulfilled one goddamn promise. And you think that your masculinity is your leverage over queer people. A society built on predator logic. And that's the worst part about it. Is that narcissist ideology will eat itself. Everything will eat itself if it's not protected and taught not to eat itself. I am currently watching cultures eat itself from the inside out and cannibalizing itself. When everyone is a threat, when trust collapse, when dominance is at the highest value, when violence becomes the only answer. When narcissism is mistaken for strength, your small, weak, fragile, little tiny pea brain mind thinks it can rule from your hiding spot. And the alternative is not weakness or chaos or disaster or war. It's to mature, to grow up, from your vision of power. Because a vision of power rooted in accountability, rooted in your dignity, you don't even like the manosphere does not one of those And I find it so insane that I have literally have to verbalize this. Now, one of those influencers genuinely have the courage to face the fact that it's a lot more complex than I need an enemy. They will never face that fact. We all need one good enemy to beat up on. But hey, until that vision becomes more compelling than narcissist ideologies in the world building that y'all be on, narcissist ideologies will continue to recruit like an army, recruit like a cult. Not because they're true, not because they're loud, but because they're simple, because they're emotionally seductive. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave y'all with that. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. Y'all have a good week. Y'all stay safe out there. Be blessed until the next video.
What's up, you guys? So today we're doing some commentary. We're talking about how to raise the community vibration through integrity. So we're gonna have some conversation about that. I am exhausted. Yes, I woke up feeling exhausted, like I didn't sleep at all. Well, it's not like I didn't sleep. It's like that feeling you get when you start to get a headache. To drink some water. Yeah, I'm drinking water right now. My head hurts. I guess that's. I'm not even sure what's wrong with me, but I'm just gonna go with my head is hurting. So, so I can complain. I'm not gonna complain the whole live stream though. So we're definitely gonna be doing some deconstruction today because I have so many questions that need answers, and I'm going to pick your guys' brain for as long as I feel like I need answers because I'm so confused at the end of the day about like what's going on with community, what's going on with like public spaces, with not just like art spaces or spaces for creatives, but spaces for like everybody. Like what's really going on. I feel like that is very much the center, right, or like the foundation of the problems that we're having because everybody's not on the same accord, right? Does that make sense? So I'm trying to pick my brain, but I don't know it. I'm trying to pick my brain, but I don't know it, to figure out like not the answers so much as like where is the deconstruction needed, right? So I think I initially wanted to start with responsibility, but now that I'm thinking about it, um I want to have like a quick breakdown of like culture, right? Which we're gonna have to get into eventually one live stream, but right now it's not the time or place for that because I think that with raising the vibration of community, I think you have to talk about responsibility. I feel like that's the core, we had a conversation about obligation, I think like two live streams ago, literally, you know, but it's not so much pointed directly at the obligation of it. I think it's more of the responsibility of, not on a spectrum from, being an American patriot, because I am talking about, like Western, the States, right? Because I do think that it's very different in Canada or how it would be in Mexico or South America than it is in the United States, community wise. Very contrast differences, right? But I think with America, it's very heavily focused on responsibility. I feel like that's for a reason. We don't talk about it though. Nobody's really having, that conversation about responsibility. So I really wanted to just, think about it, have some good open dialogue about it, because I feel like it's important before we get to integrity.
because we wouldn't need, there wouldn't be a space for um, integrity to be a necessity without responsibility. But I want to talk about culture because I think, sorry, I had to get some water. Um, I wanted to talk about culture because I think that there's a lot of kind of like things that we're looking past that are, like the details. We're looking past too many details to try to jump ahead to like get a good foot forward for things like capitalism, right? For like economics, right? Missing the details when at the end of the day, I like to think, I don't know about you guys. You can tell me in the chat. I'd love to have a conversation about that. I don't think that, like in terms of like capitalism or economics, I don't think that it's like the only thing, you know? Like it has this individual place in a bigger picture, not the bigger picture in it, or it can, I don't even really think or believe that it can stand on its own. Economics as well, capitalism, consumerism. And I think that that's the problem. I think that we're looking at it like, capitalism, consumerism, um, can be these, standalone things when they all have to work cohesively, right? Which is why culture comes into context. So I want to talk about it because I think that, we talked about um, the responsibility of awakening. I didn't forget the responsibility of awakening yesterday. I also mentioned I'm going to be dropping a video essay about that very, very soon. You guys know I love commentary, but I also love video essays. So I'm going to be making a video essay about it. Um, I honestly don't know why um, video essays always complain about doing the work instead of just doing the work and not being thanked for it. But I literally wrote that script in like, it took me literally 24 hours altogether. It's going to be a great video, yeah. But I also think that, you know, it's about the frequency of leadership because despite the culture, and this is my problem because I've been trying to deconstruct what I've been taught as a child about everything that I've been taught, right? But the one thing that I feel like I've been having the hardest time with is deconstructing culture because culture is a very interactive, it requires engagement, it requires interaction with other people who are often closed-minded or don't want to let go of the way things used to be or want to cling to tradition. I think that for me it's always been like a growth path. It's always been like a elevating, like a staircase, not like a change in direction or like a change in spiritual journey. Like it's always has been like a stair up. Like how they say one step forward, one step back. When every time I hear that phrase since I was young, I've always imagined stairs going upwards. One step forward, two steps back. I don't know, maybe that's just me though. But at the end of the day, I think that we have to evaluate why things are the same when we could be moving um, in a good direction or a objectively bad direction. It doesn't even matter as long as it's moving because being living in a comfort zone for generations to pass doesn't get anybody anywhere. I feel like that's a clear sign that people are stuck, especially stuck in their comfort zone, which I always talk about. But it gives people a reason not to look into the truth. Does that make sense? So I don't know. My idea of culture has always been like this mixture, right? Like this hodgepodge pot of like whatever you want to throw into it, not just things that are measured by, like race or gender, sex, your height, your body type, right? But things that you are interested in, because I watch YouTubers all day, and despite everyone preaching this same message, which I really really hate, about um you know basically not trusting people, because people are only human, right? And it's human nature for them to change or grow or to be different one day from the day that you felt like you knew them, right? But it has become it's become too lenient on this idea that you can't trust anything. And it's like, I don't know who hurt you, I don't know who had this idea planted in your head that human nature is objectively bad or good, or you have to strive for it to be good, or do something to be validated, or do something to be loved or cared about. um that's not what objective, I mean, like, that's not the objectivity of it, sadly. But they all base themselves off of that, just to get a deeper right or wrong, when it's like, girl, you are not dealing with the hurt that's right in front of you. You're not dealing with, you know, that trauma. You're not deconstructing the way you're deconstructing, because you're deconstructing the truth, because that doesn't affect who you are. Like, it's not a choice, and I'm the same way. I want you guys to hold me accountable, is all I can say and do, right? There's nothing more, energy, except for changing with me. But at the end of the day, that does not have to do with a connection between me and anybody watching my content. That doesn't require interaction or engagement at all, right? So when you're not working on yourself, when you're not changing or growing or moving forward, you're staying still. You're getting comfortable in your comfort zone. You are more apt to, want to lean on tradition or what makes you comfortable, you know. Instead, you're um, leaning on the truth to, quote unquote, dive deeper, when it is not about that. It's not about the truth. It's about you, and you have to accept that. And then at the same end of that spectrum, you have to understand human nature is human nature. Human nature is about balance. The same way, like, I could get very spiritual at the end of the day about it, but it's not the point of what is right or wrong. It's about the fact that you're picking and choosing, you're cherry picking, and that's not how it works, because that's not balance. So I've always had this idea that culture is like, your interest, like, all combined make up and reflect your identity, right? So you get to pick and choose. The same way you get to pick and choose, those people get to pick and choose. Like, and that's where this, like, misunderstanding happens with me and a lot of these content creators. Um, that's why I don't follow most of them. I can't do it, because most of all, they're annoying. They're really annoying, because they really want a cookie for all the deconstruction that they're doing, for
a community that does not exist, when a community is being oppressed and stepped on, looked over, looked past, treated differently, excluded, and they're worried about the deeper meaning of it rather than just fixing the problem, because the problem is right in front of them, because they feel like the problem is bigger than them. They're scared. And that's the difference between me and them, is because I'm not scared to get spiritual. I'm not scared to understand the gray area. I'm not scared to switch sides, because they're not scared to understand one day, oh, I thought it was white and not black because everything is black and white. So now I'm going to go over to the black side, right? That does not require validation or understanding from anybody else, because it's not about what you believe in. It's about the idea that, I mean, yeah, it's not the idea of what you believe in to them. It's about the idea of that idea being accepted. We all know at the end of the day, I don't give all. I do not care about that, not at all. Especially when I am the one deconstructing. Imagine going to the person deconstructing, telling you, you know, oh well, don't trust what that person says or what anybody says, because you need to find the truth for yourself. It's like, okay, that's one thing, but it's like when you're ranting about, well, don't trust me either because I can't be trusted sometimes. I'm only human. It's like, you're the one deconstructing, girl. Like, you're the one with the platform to do it. You're the one discerning the truth from the lies. You're the one diving deeper into the ideas and concepts and all that to make it make sense. But every video that you make, right? That's why I don't watch D'Angelo. That's why I don't watch these bread tubers. Like, they're annoying. When the truth is, if I settle at understanding or truth, or if I change my mind, that is when you're supposed to tell somebody. Well, you should find the truth for themselves, because that takes integrity. But nobody has integrity. And it starts with your idea, this idea of what you have of what community is. But we can't talk about community without talking about culture. Y'all know I'm a huge advocate for culture. I talk about it all day, every day, 24/7 for a living. And I'm going to continue to, because in my head, it's the socialism idea on every platform, or nothing at all. That has nothing to do with being far left or far right, because it's not political. Because having a socialist belief is the belief that we are allowed to think something different. When supposedly at the end of the day, that's what this nation was built on. But where's the proof? Where's the proof? And then we have political people, leaders, talking about, we're working on that foundation. We have not seen the proof for you to be working on a foundation yet. And we've been here for a long time. We've been here for too damn long. Resting, sitting, mooching, right? When other countries have done everything to break their backs to be free from the lie of that. Still owe different countries, like still in debt to 3 different countries, and barely making the money to supply that by doing what's illegal, right? But there's so much propaganda, because that's what it is. It's propaganda to blur the truth, so you don't have any real understanding of what it is, so you can conform to the simplest idea that you didn't have yourself. And that's sad to think about. But it also works because a lot of people don't want to think for themselves. They're too scared or too comfortable, one or the other. I think that the big idea is to find the things that you find comfort in the action of it, the process of it, the understanding of how it works and the things that you like and why. Not getting to a place and being comfortable there. Because we all know life is not about a destination, an end goal, a set spot. It's about the journey, right? And I'm really dedicated to it because a lot of people don't understand community, and that is the same thing that is tearing communities apart that were already here. That is the same reason, and the duality of it is that there are communities that are still here that do not belong here because of that same thing. If you're doing both, it doesn't seem like you're doing right, right? Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I think that it's about the self-reflection. So I want you guys to think about it. Like, if you went to go see a movie, right? Let's say somebody pick a movie in the chat. Mean Girls, Jennifer's Body, Scary Movie, the Scary Movie franchise, right? We'll do the Scary Movie franchise, right? Oh, okay. I thought of a bigger one. I mean, a better one. Have you ever seen the movie chat Big Fish? I want to say it's by Tim Burton, but I'm actually not 100% positive on that. I by Yeah, it was directed by Tim Burton. What's up? I knew it. So let's say you went to the movie theater, one of the rare times you actually went to a movie theater, and you watched Big Fish, and you really like you. I'm good, and you really like the movie Big Fish, but so you got it on DVD, and at this point you really love this movie, right? First of all, why would you let someone talk you out of liking a movie that you felt like you wanted to support and liked and reflected a part of you, right? You know how I think of it, like, you know how some teenagers in like the average teenage room has like posters and like they have their entire room decorated to reflect their identity, right? I think it's the same thing. Why would you choose one thing to reflect your identity, especially if it's one thing that you're not even good at? Because there is always criticism open for every community, and it's always the people who don't believe that are the problem. Like how um a white person can't critique the black community, but black people in the community can critique black people, right? It's not up for white people to critique Hispanics, Latinos, but it's up to the Latinos to critique themselves, right? But you know, I have to, even though I really don't want to go into depth about the critique of within the community with race to keep the metaphor going, and then we'll get back to Big Fish. I think it's important because, uh, well, it's because a lot of communities are able to take a little bit of leverage for granted. That's a big problem with communities. They're always taking something for granted. feel like they deserve it, feel like they have a right to it, they feel like they own it, they feel like it's completely them. And that's the problem, because you weren't the only one that's went to go see the movie Big Fish by Tim Burton. Everybody saw that movie. You saw a full movie theater full of people who also have that DVD. It's not just about you. So you don't own that movie. But if you choose to let, your DVD collection be a reflection of who you are, and Big Fish is in your top 5, that is your choice. You don't own that movie though. And that's the problem. And then I'm going to try to use the movie reference because I don't want to use race for the criticism of it. But I think you can't be the person talking about, oh, I love the movie the most, I have it on DVD, when there are people who own the box sets and all the posters. They have the vinyl of the soundtrack as well, right? But you're the loudest, the rudest, the one with the quote unquote biggest ideas, when none of that is even real, because you want to have authority over the movie Big Fish by Tim Burton. And that's not about deconstructing. That's not about anything except for yourself, and that's the problem at the end of the day. And the worst part about it is that a lot of these content creators don't even know that the deconstruction of self is not about validation. It's not about what other people will think of you, because you're the truth seeker. Hello, we should all be truth seekers. That will knock out freaking 90%, if not 99%, of that validation that you're seeking for, because we don't care. We should all be doing it. And that's exactly why I say um, socialism or nothing, because it's not about ownership of of taking control of self. That is a default. We should be moving past defaults in the year 2026. So I want to encourage you guys so bad. I want to encourage you guys so bad with every piece of content that I create, to move past defaults, move past tradition, move past what you know, and deconstruct to find your truth, find your reflection of everything around you, because you don't own those things. That's obvious. But at the end of the day, you following along as one of those unlocked characters on Mortal Kombat that doesn't even have the avatar showing. You're just a blank screen. Does not sound like the life that you should be living. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's just the life that you want. Maybe that's the life that you feel like you deserve, which I can't argue at that point. But at the same time, it's delusional to think that traditions were put here because they worked. No, traditions were put here because people were willing to fall in line. And that's the problem. Because nobody would have a problem with tradition if it was real, if it was authentic, if it didn't require things like always bringing up ownership or authority or power, when in reality we don't have those things. We are owners of nothing in this world. You cannot take anything with you when you die, and you do not come in this world with an abundance of things. That's just the truth of what it is. And so my problem with that is that a lot of people are really ready to metaphorically sleep all day, when sleeping all day and not getting up to go to your job has always been looked down on. So like, what are you really saying? You wish you could, like, you wish you had that life? Are you saying you want better for other people? Like, I don't know, it just does not make sense. Make it make sense from your chat, because I don't know whether it's the idea of
doing what other people do because they think it works that pisses me off, or is if it's the idea that people feel like they have authority in doing that. Why do you want power? Why do you want authority? The wrong way at that, because you don't even know the ideas that exist around that, because you're so obsessed with those negative things to know that there are things better and healthier, which is why I'm talking about community, which is why I'm talking about culture. Because yesterday we talked about leadership, not with authority, because leading with authority does not even work. But leading with an essence, leading with a presence, is how you do it. But people are so concerned about this quote unquote ego death because it's a tradition, when that does not apply to everybody. People don't even want to accept the fact that one size does not fit everybody. Because if I'm a 2XL and you give me a one size fits all that's not going to even stretch across my body, I'm going to be pissed off. If you give me some big ass pants and I'm fucking 18 around the waist, I'm going to be mad. Talking about some one size fits all. Because it's not about exclusion in that matter. It's about the idea that you're living your life blessed, ignorant, and unaware about exclusion, and don't even have to make it make sense. Because if you feel like you have the power now, what are you going to do when you really get some power and make a whole bunch of people look stupid? Like, be for real, be honest with yourself. And I said that yesterday, and I gotta say it again. There was a famous quote from a writer once said, people will do everything to never have to face themselves, and that's the problem. They don't know what culture is. They think it's a race. They think it's, the sex or a gender. Why can't it be a reflection of your identity? Like, make it make sense. So I think that it ties into culture, and just try to stick with me, right? I'm gonna try to explain it the best that I can. I think that it ties into culture with community, right? Because that's the point of the video. I think it ties into that because cultures don't shape communities, they build them. Communities don't form without like-minded people, right? But where's the like-mindedness in leadership? Where is the leadership? I mean, what is the correlation of leadership and that frequency of like-mindedness in the context of community? And I know a lot of y'all are irritated because I'm always asking like either the same questions because I really, really, really want to know, or I'm asking like these very obnoxiously big questions. But it's because I'm curious. What is that ego and that desire for authority have to do with real leadership and community, especially without integrity? Because why do you feel like you can cling to power and leadership without integrity and not see it as a bad thing, as seeing it as you're doing what you got to do, or seeing it as that's the way life is, when there are people not in correlation to people sacrificing, but in correlation of like on in the spectrum of deconstruction. Because a part of me wants to accept that, it's a balance of things, right? There are good leaders, there are bad leaders. But when we come to a point where there are no good leaders, there are only obnoxious leaders wanting power and control and to spread propaganda and to have a power system, to install a food chain into the U.S. nation. Like, what are we talking about? And then settling for the bare minimum of what there already was, like that has anything to do with the other.